I'm excited to be back after a short break, and today I'm bringing you my absolute favorite topic, which is the theory of constraint by Eliyahu Goldratt. I've been reading his book nonstop over and over again for so many years. Like, it's not luck, the goal, the Phoenix Project is not directly from him, but it's just all about what he's doing. Critical chain, the choice, the race, the theory of constraint. Like, there are several books all around this concept of theory of constraint, and it's fundamentally has changed how I think about business, how I make decisions around my processes, and to get the outcomes I want. And it's been really helping me breaking through some of those blockage that I've been having in business since 2015, 16, something like that. And it's incredible. And one of the premises of it is that it allows you to maximize your outcome without incurring any additional costs. And this is the powerful thing where you use the existing resources you have to solve a bunch of your problems. And then, of course, from there, you can more strategically make investments that you need. And the basic gist of it is when you understand where your true bottleneck is, you can have a much more better impact on your throughput, because what comes out is fully dependent on the critical chain or the bottleneck that you're having. For that, I want to go through a few terminologies first. The terminology of inventory is used a lot. Now, in manufacturing, inventory is very clear what it is. But for example, if we take it in a dance context, inventory can be your available instructors, the available room capacity that you have. Then you go through a production phase, which is where your operating expenses are. And this can be building your community, the marketing, the sales, the concept creation, and things like that. And then finally, the throughput, the thing that comes after all of this work. And if you're thinking about it in business terms, then there's the money made from the tickets sold. But it can also be non-financial objectives like dancers developed and so on. But for the sake of this video and conversation, I will treat it as a business outcome. So the financial part is the throughput that we're looking for. So the first thing you want to do is to identify your constraints. Where is your bottleneck? And because, like I said, this is the thing that is directly affecting what throughput you can have. And this is actually, especially if you're really entangled into a difficult situation where you're sort of getting bombarded from all different sides about all the problems that exist in your workflow, it can be really hard to untangle that. And that's, for example, this is the process you use for TOC to untangle that if you really, really want to go deep into it and not just relying on your intuition. I will make a separate video about that. Now, most people won't actually take the time and create something like this in order to analyze their root cause. But if we understand it close enough, I think we can also use our intuition to get make a good guess as well. But first, understanding where can the bottlenecks exist. So a bottleneck can, for example, exist in the class capacity that you have. So the physical space is the limiting factor. It can be the instructor availability. If you might be able to offer new classes in terms of students available, but you don't have enough instructors there. Or student enrollments. You might have the room and you might have the teachers, but you're unsure about your ability to fill those classes. It could be in your cash flow, where the thing that is limiting your ability to increase your throughput is simply that the money is not available when it needs to be available. It's not a profit thing. And then it could be also the team time or your own personal time, where you could be doing more projects or offer more classes, but you're simply at your max capacity and you can't do anything more, so to say. So what you need to do is to exploit the constraint. And I'm going to explain a little bit what it means. And the first way of thinking about it is that your constraint, your bottleneck, is the weakest link in the whole chain. So if you have a whole chain and you just notice that this one is made by fabric while the rest is by a metal chain, and obviously, if you pull very hard on it, it will break here and it won't break here. So the idea with theory of constraint is that any work done to strengthen this, replacing this, making it stronger, is a productive work. Any work done on any of the other locations is actually waste, because it doesn't strengthen the quality of the chain. It will still break when you put pressure on it. And this is the, in terms, if we go back to the bottleneck, it doesn't matter how much force we put outside of the bottleneck situation, the bottleneck is still the thing that sort of limits your ability to get throughput. And what's so powerful about this way of thinking is that it really focuses your attention, it focuses your choices, your decision making, and instead of everything being urgent and important, it sort of drills down to one area that is urgent and important to optimize for. And squeezing maximum out of that bottleneck is basically like, once you discover that where your bottleneck is, you want to do whatever you can. You want to rally all your resources and forces in order to make sure that bottleneck is at max capacity for as long as possible. And the rest of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you get there. So for example, if class space is your bottleneck, then you want to, of course, being able to see if you can optimize you want to optimize around offering classes that are not on the optimal time. There was a lot of optimal. You want to use waitlist in order to, for example, always be able to fill the moment somebody drops out, that you fill the capacity quickly, because the percentage lost of throughput for individual missing a class is actually quite high if that's the bottleneck. You might even want to consider changing what you teach in order to have more people into the class. We have it, for example, for our beginner workshops, we totally adjust according to how full the room is, and this helps us have a few more people in class when needed. Instructor availability. You want to, of course, prune your course offering so that you merge small or inefficient groups quickly, so that the teachers always have the big classrooms. If you have couples teaching together, you might consider splitting them up and have them work with assistants, even if it means maybe a little bit lesser quality experience, because again, the teacher is a bottleneck, not a number of participants. You might want to consider having residency offers, meaning having teachers coming from another country. And you want to start building your instructor pipeline. At SwingStep, we had, for example, a 4-stage pipeline from where we started with having a process where we noticed who want to volunteer and help and be involved, and then we sort of brought them into opportunities to assist, learn a little bit about the teaching role, dabble into this a little bit. If we notice that they are engaged with that and sort of developing themselves there, we introduce them to a 3-step associates program. And then from there, that's where we usually would hire our full-time teachers. Actually, over at SwingStep, I made a whole teachers training program during the COVID period. I just took everything we know about pedagogy, and because we've been teaching it in 40 cities around the world, because we have a flow-based pedagogy concept that I think is very powerful, and other people seem to appreciate it as well. So you can use that, for example, as a way of training more teachers, so that you don't have to be the one who only does it. Student enrollment. That if your bottleneck is in your ability to get more people through the door, basically, then you want to use all your other resources to optimize for this. I'm going to talk about this more later. You want to absolutely focus on, or not focus, but you want to absolutely do something about your retention rates in order to keep the students you're having. So if it's already hard to lose, to gain new students, and when you want to absolutely do whatever you can to be able to keep those students. and maybe find ways to reactivate lost students by reaching out to them, making them offers, and so on. If cash flow is your bottleneck, you want to reduce the payment cycle time. So for example, if people are used to pay every 3 months, then you want to try to find change your whole structure so that people pay every 6 weeks or once a month or every week if that's the situation. But for example, in some countries like in France, for example, it's common that people pay for the whole year. So I can imagine cash flow can occasionally be an issue if it's not planned right for the whole year. So the big bulk of money that comes in the beginning, is it used optimally so it reaches all the way to the next cycle? That's something to be able to, it's something you have to figure out, so to say. But I will go into it a little bit deeper soon, but you want to optimize your courses and your event programs, not around what is most profitable, but what brings the most steady state flow of cash, basically. Team time. You want to maybe for a time just sacrifice on sleep, leisure, and stuff like that in order to analyze where the problem really is and what's productive, what's non-productive, so that you can cut away some things in order to regain your capacity to be able to develop the solutions that you need to, so that in long term you are more efficient. And well, either you sort of sacrifice your sleep, or you actually start with just cutting back a bunch of projects, free up some time, and then come back again and analyze what you want to do. Resolving conflicts and uncertainties and building processes is definitely a powerful way to free up more energy and time for yourself. Now, the very interesting idea around the theory of constraint is that you subordinate everything to the constraint. And this needs a shift in mind shift. Shift in mind shift. This needs a shift in mindset. And the reason is for this. We are used to the idea, or it's logical, that everybody should try to optimize what they're doing in order for the whole thing to be better. And that's actually not true. You only need to optimize the bottleneck, and everything else do not need to be optimized. In fact, they should be less optimized in order to support the bottleneck. If we take it in the process of working with a team, for example, let's say one person in your team is the bottleneck, the other 3 people are not. Then those other 3 people need to know that if the bottleneck person asks for something or needs support or need help with some in any shape or form, these people should instantly drop what they're doing and come and support this person, even if it means that they are less productive, they throw themselves out of flow state because now they're having all of these thoughts in their mind that they're working on. They need to stop that, and they need to help, even if it means that now they need to spend another 2 hours to get back into what they were working on and sort of undo that interruption. The thing is, they don't need to be absolutely productive. Only the bottleneck need to be productive. So you don't want to sacrifice any loss of productivity in the bottleneck for the sake of the other people having more productivity. And that is a huge shift of mindset that is coming through this theory of constraint, that I cannot emphasize enough how difficult it is actually to think in those perspectives. Again, I mentioned a few times, like profitability is a goal only until cash flow, for example, is your bottleneck. If the cash flow is your bottleneck, then profitability is not the most important thing to create the total output, or profitability per activity is not the total thing. Let me quickly interrupt myself to ask you for this favor. Now, I'm committed to take the 19 years of experience I have from this and put it into these videos to share with you as much as I know about organizing events, running dance schools, building teams, running communities, so that you can do an even better job making all of that happening for you. And what could really help me is if you do all this social media magic stuff. Subscribe, like, comment, share with somebody that you think could benefit from these videos. You can choose your favorite video or the whole playlist or the organizer's checklist. Anything that spreads the message and the channel will help me tremendously. All right, much appreciated. Back to the video. So let's look at it, for example, for class spaces. When it's not the bottleneck, then you want to use that excess capacity, maybe as a membership model, or pay a little bit more and get much more classes for free included, simply because that is not your bottleneck. We're going to talk about this more. You want to use your class space for goodwill. For example, it's create practice sessions for your community to come and just use it for free. Or if somebody want to use it for private lessons or training time, you're generous with it. You can use it as a exchange thing. So use this class space for your courses, but then help us or be cheaper here, for example, for us. But when it is your bottleneck, you want to be super strict about how the class is used. You don't want to rent it out to other people. I'm going to make a separate video about that, because there's a way of calculating how to make these decisions according to TOC that I'm making a separate video about. But you want to find ways to increase price, basically, by making it more exclusive. You maybe want to ask for longer commitments, so there are fewer gaps in your program, or maybe separate, like prime time, charge more, and then charge less for non-prime time, so that you can simply find ways of using your space more often than currently, but people are paying less for the non-optimal times. Instructor availability. When it's not the bottleneck, then you can tolerate small classes, and that's going to be in the video where you calculate what's the minimum number of participants you can have in order to run an active class. It's different from classical profit loss statement. But importantly, you want to find ways for your instructors to support you with the bottleneck and find ways to make that work better. If instructors are not the bottleneck, you want to have as many of your best instructors teach as many of the classes to get as possible. If you're having couple dance, have two great teachers teach together, because you're optimizing for other things like retention, quality, and things like that, rather than optimizing for having your teachers being available in as much as possible. But when it is your bottleneck, then it's absolutely important that your instructors are teaching in big rooms. So per instructor time, you have more capacity. You prune your classes a lot. You merge in inefficient lessons, so that, again, there are more students per class. Student enrollment. When student enrollment is not the bottleneck, well, again, then go for bigger rooms. You can get more throughput that way. You can get more venues. So if if instructors is not the bottleneck as well, then you can just have multiple venues. But also, you want to now prune your customers. You want to be stricter about the rules. Maybe even literally fire bad customers who are disruptive, who are rude towards staff or other participants, who constantly sign up, cancel, demand money back, and stuff like that. Just in a friendly way, ask them to find something else, basically. But when it is your bottleneck, you want to. This is the big. This is an important insight to have. Think of it like this: if you have an apple tree, and at the season of apples, you have a big basket of apples, and you can see that these are going to rot away in just a few days or weeks if you don't get them to people right away, right? That's a perishable good. So as you can see all these 100 apples in a basket, you sort of try to find ways, okay, I give them to my neighbors to generate goodwill, or maybe my neighbor gives me some pears back and I have some variety that way. If I sell them, I give 5 away if they buy 5. So, you know, they get sweetening the deal for the buyer of it. I convert them into other products that I sell differently, like creating apple pie. So it's very easy to come up with a bunch of different ways when you see that perishable good in front of you. When we create events and experiences, that available capacity, the empty space that you have in your classroom, a teacher is already there. There are some students already there. There's, for example, music there and stuff like that. So like, but those empty slots is like these apples being rotting away, and you haven't used them to create any goodwill, any increase your student enrollments and so on. So you want to really think about it at the end of each class. That that resource is rotten, is perished, is lost, right? So it's a great opportunity to really use your excess capacity to improve your student enrollment situation by sweetening the deal for existing participants, so you increase retention rate. That was one of the important ways that you can improve your situation when student enrollment is the bottleneck. You can, like what we did for Swing Step, for example, we converted it into a membership model after COVID, I think, where well, we have this capacity and people were not coming back to class very quickly. So we just gave that excess capacity back to our existing participants. It increased retention. Also now during the summer, we've seen a 140% increase on revenue compared to previous 2 years with a bunch of these decisions we made for this summer. I made a separate video about that. Cash flow. When it's not the bottleneck, then you optimize for profit. You try as much as possible to pay services in bulk or ahead of time in exchange for some discounts. And of course, you plan your activities around when is best for participants, when you can sell most around of it. But when it is the bottleneck, you actually don't want to optimize for profit. You want to optimize for available cash. You pay for services monthly, even if you have to pay more, or you try to make arrangements that you pay when you have the money. So for example, let's say you have less money available in the summer. You ask if your teachers would be okay to get part of their payment or all of their payment after the summer, for example, things like that. But also, I'm going to make a short video around this separately, I think. You want to optimize when you make offerings, not when it's best, but when the money comes in. If the team time is not the bottleneck, you subordinate yourself to the bottleneck. You do whatever you can to make the bottleneck work optimally. You protect your bottleneck from distractions, from waste. This can be, for example, if it's a person that is your bottleneck, then all communication to that person needs to go through you. So you just filter away what's not, what's just a distraction or what you can solve differently. Yeah, basically you might pay more to, for example, one example in the book Goal was they were instead of having the employees who are working at the bottleneck station, they lost 1 hour in transit, so they paid for taxi to get to the workstation every day, even though it of course is more expensive than taking the bus. But you don't look at optimization at a local level when you're thinking about TOC. For the bottleneck, the optimization should happen at the global outcome, so the final throughput. So you need to see, is this expense worth it compared to the final outcome, not towards the local optimal. When it is the bottleneck, when team time is the bottleneck, then you want to you don't want to make exchanges with new time, meaning, for example, let's say you're a teacher and there's somebody, you ask somebody to do a favor for you, and you want to exchange time, exchange services. So instead of offering a private lesson, which is new time, you offer them to come for free to one of your existing lessons, because your private lessons are no longer a price. The price is not the hour you spend. The price is in relationship to the final throughput that you have. So if you could have been teaching another course and that course could bring in 5,000 euro, then your private lesson should cost 5,000 euro, not the whatever hundreds you're charging for your private lesson at a per hour basis. So it's when you're the bottleneck, you have to be very strict about how you use your time. And of course, take advantage of your existing non-bottleneck resources to optimize your time in any way you can. But also start comparing outsourcing to software, to external services, and compare that save time, not directly to, you don't put a time, like let's say your time is worth 100 euro an hour, for example. You don't compare that, you compare to the final throughput. Now, the last thing I want to bring up on today's video is that the theory of constraint comes with a concept of continuous improvement, because you now have found your bottleneck, and then there's a continuous improvement on making sure that bottleneck works at 100% capacity at 100% of the time, right? So in order to get that efficiency, we constantly have to go back and try to figure out how can we make that work better again, because that's the thing that is actually affecting your throughput. So if your goal is to increase your throughput, what you do is to continuously figure out what can you do to improve your bottleneck, have as few interruptions as possible. But it also comes to the point where sometimes at some point you've improved this so much that now you've suddenly gotten to excess capacity at your bottleneck, and now the new bottleneck is somewhere else, and you have to go through the whole process of figuring out where the new bottleneck is. If you once done a big mapping, you're probably gonna find the next bottleneck rather quickly, because you have sort of really understood how everything is intertwined together. But you might need to make another sort of deep dive analysis. So you don't want the bottleneck to shift too often. In fact, it's very disruptive to everything you do when your bottleneck shifts, because your policies might change, your team culture might change. You might need to optimize a lot of decision making in a new way. Let's say it was from sales to cash flow. That those are very different ways of making decisions. So you don't you're hoping for relatively stable bottleneck situations for yourself, rather than having it shift quite regularly. Yeah, you don't want to find yourself in every week figuring out, oh, where's a bottleneck today? That's not a good outcome for you. All right, I'm finding myself going into a rant about the theory of constraint, because I love this topic so much. It has had such an impact on my entrepreneurial journey. I'm making a few more videos around this as an opportunity for me to geek out more and help you take on this knowledge. It was quite a lot of different studying and reading that I did for it. And if you want my help to help you figure out where your bottleneck is and understand how to optimize around it, I'm happy to hop on a meeting to see if we can figure something out together. Again, I'm not going to charge for that meeting. I'm mostly interested in learning about your business so I can make better decisions for the software we are building. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.